I think it's important to validate who your target audience is, because when you have that specific target in mind, that's who you're going to target your efforts, and later on your playtest is they are going to help you decide who to look for when you're looking for feedback. Um, because wrong players, wrong target audience will give you wrong feedback. And then you can base your answers, your insights that you got from wrong feedback, from wrong players, and you get wrong answers. And then it's a big mess.
Hi guys. Hello everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to
Hello.
Hello.
the 11th episode of Game UX Alchemists. As you can see, today is a bit of a special episode. We have the whole of our UX team at the same time, which I don't know why we didn't do it before. I think it's quite lovely to see you all guys at the same time. But how have you been?
Quite fine. Happy to be here as always. And I think that doing all together here will be much fun the other days, but we'll see.
We will see, because we have an interesting topic today, which is the concept testing, right? That is not that well talked about actually on social media or in general. So it will be very interesting to take you guys' opinion on this, because that's something we do at Antidote as well. But to start off with, Costa, let's start with like a quite basic question. So concept test, everyone talks about, playtesting in general once you have the game ready, or how we talked in the last episode, post-launch testing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And testing like after the game is released. But why is it important, do you think, to also consider doing it at the very, very early stage of development?
Yeah, at the end, I think that the sooner you start validating what you are going to do, the better experience you will provide to players. So the earliest step that you can make when starting your video game is validate if the concept, the idea of your game, it's something that players will like or enjoy, and try to define their expectations and what you will deliver. So if you gather a group of your potential target and show your idea, and you start from there, you will start defining the best path to deliver the best game for your target. And this is, as we said many times, something that it will make you have maybe not more benefit, but less cost in development, because you will have all your goals in mind when defining and deciding. That's one of the things it's important.
Yes, I think game development is also time consuming and expensive, right? So testing this idea and this the concept, the mechanics early will help you prevent losing money or spending money or having to pivot later in the game development stage. So it's great to do concept testing earlier before starting developing your game, so you don't waste time for nothing.
How early can you start like concept testing? Like at a very, very early stage, like even if I don't have a name for it?
Certainly.
Yeah, as early as you have an idea, you can start validating it. Before, it's tricky because if you don't have an idea, you don't have anything to validate.
Something to validate, that's when you can start doing concept testing.
Yeah. And also the when we talk about concept, it's not just like the idea of the game, as Lucy mentioned, the new mechanics you want to add. If you are just checking for new characters, or if you are checking for new visual art style, all these things, everything that can be added today comes from a concept, from idea, and that's what you can start doing that.
Yeah, I remember one time we did concept testing that didn't have any videos, any like final product, just like ideas in a PowerPoint, I believe. And one of these slides said something like, we are going to show you 2 stories. Please tell us which story is more engaging to you. One of the story was made up, and the other one was the real story they wanted to go with in the game. And that's like really a good idea, like just to see at the first beginning and the very beginning, if the idea they have that basically like builds all the game and the story they want to build up is something that is engaging for players. Because if you build an entire game based on something that is not engaging for them, and you just test it at the last stage, you're not going to be able to change anything, because all the game was built on in that idea. So yeah, I think that was really something really interesting that they did. And yeah.
Imagine developing a game like wasting efforts, time, money based on assumptions. So
And
it won't end well.
I have actually a question here for Alex, because in one of the previous episodes, he mentioned he's developing a board game. I don't know if you guys knew. And that would be like a perfect example, Alex, because your idea was quite interesting. How did you apply this?
Well, at the end of the day, developing a board game, in terms of design, of course, you can skip all the programming and that, but at the end of the day, is an iterative process. So you start with a basic idea, and then you go iterating. You start by thinking about the board, which in the game would be, for example, the map or the controls, the most basic things, and then you kind of work out the specifics. This might be too hard, this might be too difficult, and the best way to do it is by play testing, by showing your game to people and having them test it, and having an idea of what they understand, or what they find entertaining, or what is funny or not funny. So as it is an iterative process, I think it makes the most sense to apply that feedback as early as possible. So as Lucy said earlier, you don't have to pivot right when you have all the artwork done and you find out that nobody understands your artwork, So it's best to know when you have to change one thing, or when one thing is not working quite well, to change it or to improve it, to, I don't know, make it more clear, whatever, as soon as possible. It will save you time, it will save you money. That's it.
Alex mentioned something interesting, which was one of my next questions. He mentioned you need to validate it with people, right? So you have to ask somebody for this. And unlike when you have a game ready and a kind of audience in mind, how do you go about like recruiting or asking? Like, how do you know who to ask for feedback if you're just in the validation stage?
Well, at the end, you have one target in mind that ideally it's your perfect target, your perfect user. Also, you can also use the concept testing to validate a bit. Okay, it's my type of player. What's my type of user? Because maybe you can have a bit of both. Like, I'm validating this idea that I have. I will invite a broad range of different users to understand, okay, which is the one that connects more with my idea. And from there, you can also get your your user persona, player persona, and start taking more his opinion, her opinion in mind when designing and inviting that you get the profile to follow up, to provide more information, to see what the next steps should be, or if the ones you have in mind are, as I said, matching with your profile. Because it is also important, this concept. Maybe you are designing the new GTA 6 and you do concept testing with 3-year-old kids. So there's a mismatch there. You have also to have already a pre-designed profile, a bit more broad than usual, and then you can learn more.
quite like what you said, Costa, that you can also validate profiles, not just the game itself. So like you meant like which for whom I should build a game for, right? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, it's at the end, concept validation, it's both both parts, making sure that what you are doing matches with your user, and also trying to understand what your user will be if you go with that idea.
And I think it's important to validate who your target audience is, because when you have that specific target in mind, that's who you're going to target. Your efforts and later on your playtest is they are going to help you decide who to look for when you're looking for feedback. Because wrong players, wrong target audience will give you wrong feedback. And then you can base your answers, your insights that you got from wrong feedback, from wrong players, and you get wrong answers. And then it's a big mess.
And you said that, okay, you might have a target audience in mind, Costa, but what if like you don't? Like if you're like at the very, very early stage, the creative juices are flowing, you have an idea of the world, right? And you really don't know how would you recommend to pivot or choose one?
When doing this type of testing that we are talking about, ideas, concepts, blah, 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 you have, as all the tests that we have been talking about in this podcast, the more qualitative and the more quantitative. When you don't have this first persona in mind, or you want to validate it, the usual thing is, okay, let's go to a more quantitative approach. Let's gather 100, 200, 250 samples to understand in a variety of profiles, to understand which ones are more aligned with my needs and my game. And then also you can try to have more qualitative with focus groups, interviews, to understand, okay, I see that this group it's matching or not matching my game, but I want to understand a bit more why. So you can go more in depth, like, okay, what's the reasoning why you are hating this concept or you are loving this concept? And then if you want to adapt it a bit more to specific profiles, you can work with all that information.
That's interesting. Let's put it into practice. I want to give you a hypothetical scenario. So Vicky, let's say I'm a game dev, right? I have a couple of names in mind, the genre, the story. Okay, I have the concepts I want to validate. How do I do that? So let's say I have the concepts. I have a few people I want to speak to. How can I like begin this process or like collecting feedback?
I mean, there are so many ways you can test your concept. I mean, as I said before, you can do like a simple PowerPoint with your ideas and just compare two of them to see which one are players more leaning towards to. That's one of the things you can do. As well, you can do like surveys where they can choose what they like most. I mean, for instance, you have like a pretty basic design on characters or weapons, so you see which things they like better, so you guide you more through where path you should go. But yeah, there are a lot of ways you can do testing. You can also do interviews or focus groups to see if your first ideas like cope with a big group of people. If you imagine them their selves playing the game. But going a little bit back on the conversation, I think something interesting is that it's not only the research like for the outside people. What I mean is like you can also do research for like the game with and before thinking on other people. When you say like the person, like the ideal persona for that game, I was thinking about how to say it. I was thinking about if you don't know what your persona is, you need to do some research for your game, like which are your inspirations, which things are you inspired by when wanting to construct that game, which people play that game. So there is a lot of like internal research you can do to see then which steps you can do next when doing research for other people. And that's some ideas I could think of when doing like concept testing.
That's interesting. And Alex, obviously from several knows you have a game designer background. So in your opinion, what is important to validate, like which concepts or ideas or mechanics before you commit to like a full development process? What do you think are the most important things to like validate and make sure?
From the top of my mind, I would say that the most important things to validate would be first the aesthetics, just because that's the first thing you will see of the game when you see the poster, when you see it on your screen. That's the first thing you will see if you like the art style or not. And second of all, it's very important to validate what the core loop of the game is. That is the thing that you will be doing most. For example, in a shooter, it will be aiming and shooting, and then moving, for example. Recollecting whatever resource the game has, exploring whatever the game is. And I think it might sound a little scary for some people to think that you have to create like sort of a persona for your game. And they might be thinking, well, I want my game to be liked by the widest audience possible. I want everybody to like my game, but you cannot make a game that will be liked. Sorry, for all 3 years old and all 16 years old and all 60 years old. You have to make choices. You have to make decisions, and that's important. You might do a game that is very popular among 20 years old, and some older or younger audience might also be interested because, of course, we have different tastes. But if you try to make a game that accommodates all kinds of tastes, all kinds of users, you will end up making a game that is liked by no one, because no one will truly relate. Nobody will truly engage fully in that game, in my opinion.
And also, before going forward, just about the question that you asked Victoria, that what's your first step? Her answer was perfect, but I have one even better, and this one goes for marketing. The perfect step to do is contact Antidote and start working with us. We'll provide all the expertise and help that you will need.
Vicky forgot the most important part, right? But yeah, no, you gave a perfect answer there, Alex, and it actually linked to my next burning question I had. So you guys mentioned why code testing matters. Like Vicky mentioned how you can do it, like the ways, why it's important. But let's talk about like from a bit of a psychological / philosophical perspective. You guys saying you need to really collect feedback and build a game based on your target audience, but building games is can be sometimes passion, right? Or like a personal fulfillment project almost. So if somebody says to you, okay, but these people said they want this, but I really want this because that's my vision. How would you recommend to balance it, or like which is the best direction to take here?
I think the best one to answer this would be Alex, because he has faced some situation this week regarding this.
Perfecto, let's go.
Could you come again with the question, please?
Sorry, it was a bit long. Basically, yes. If a dev has a vision, but the feedback he gets from this concept validation sessions is different, or it challenges it, and it's frustrating, how would you recommend to balance it, or like what would you recommend to that dev?
Well, first of all, if you want to make your game and you have the resources for it, and you make the game you like, well, perfect. That's fine. You do you, and that's awesome. It's always nice to see a passion project come to life and see it, and sometimes even become somewhat relevant, viral, whatever. But most of the times people do games because they want to sell them and they want to earn a living from them. So of course, if you want to sell the game, you want the game to be interesting, and you want the game to appeal to some people.
So a lot of people like testing just to confirm their own ideas are correct. Like, yeah, I have this concept, I have these game mechanics, I have this character, so I will do some testing just to confirm that all my ideas are fine, everyone likes my game. And when they run into an issue, or that some people are like, whoa, this isn't working, this isn't like what I was expecting, they are not rating the game as high as they want, they just start getting skeptical. They just well, but we cannot change this, we cannot do that. So at the end, it's like, who are you doing the game for? Are you doing the game for yourself? Are you doing the game for the players? So you really need to prioritize who are you doing the game for, like the persona we talked about earlier. But also if this isn't working, what is the thing that we need to prioritize for the game to start working, start being engaging for the people? And sometimes people are really not willing to change anything. And to me, the ultimate goal of doing research and testing is just to figure out what is working and what not, to make people happy when playing the game. So I think that there are some things that they need to know in advance, that if they are going to test their game, they need to be open to feedback, basically.
You mentioned prioritization there, and I guess when you collect feedback, there'll be, I guess you're not going to follow every single suggestion, right? And how can you
No,
filter?
I mean, it's impossible to follow all the suggestions. I mean, if you have enough time and enough money, you can follow all of them and do all the needed changes. But for instance, when we are doing UX reports, we usually rate the issues as the most concerning issue, the least concerning issue, the thing that needs to be changed the faster, because this generates, I don't know, a lot of problems. This generates less engagement with users. So yeah, there are some things that need to be prioritized for the game to start working, obviously.
Also, with the suggestion priority, there's also the setback theory that it's called, or well known. It's like all games could have a setback, but not all games need a setback. That's the thing that, yeah, sometimes you have the players saying, okay, this would be perfect, but it's like, yeah, but having this idea, it doesn't match with what I'm going for. And in an ideal scenario where we could test everything, we have an infinite budget, infinite time to do anything, the perfect plan would be, okay, we have the suggestion, we prepare the concept, draft concept, we validate it with the players. Is this something that would be matching your game and your needs? Yes, then we can start working with that. And then we just prepare the one prototype, we validate it with the players, we add it to the main game, then we validate it in the main game. So the ideal journey on testing, it will be very iterative, very repetitive, very short term, just always validating everything new that you have to do. Obviously, that's very time consuming, very lot of resources, and sometimes clients prioritize, okay, I want to check once everything is done, but I have less time to, or less ways to solve it, or I focus on the conceptualization and I know that this will work, but maybe then the implementation it's not working. So you have to decide sometimes if you want to have everything related later or earlier. Also, as always, everything depends on the budget. But the best option would be just try to split it and have at least something small in the beginning, something small in the later step.
For me, what's interesting, because there's such an early stage of development, it's very important, right? Which feedback you follow, which one you don't, because as you guys mentioned, you validate the whole vision, right? And based on this feedback, you're going to build the whole game. So I'm guessing it's very important to prioritize or filter out which feedback you follow.
I think the idea of conceptualization, it's easier to see it with some silly example. For example, I mean, you wouldn't design a shoe with a cell phone on the bottom part because that's useless. So if you go to someone and say, hey, you would buy this, they will say, obviously, no, you won't do it because nobody will buy it. When we talk about something more digital, like it's a video game, people tend to say, okay, this can be easy to create, we can do it, people will buy it. But at the end, it's the same. Maybe you're creating something that players won't buy because they consider it as a silly thing or they don't understand it. So as soon as you know that you will have some clients and who are the clients and what they want, you can start working better.
That's interesting. And then I left this part for last because it's the most interesting one. Is like practical applications of this. You guys talked about everything, but I know that at Antidote we also do real life projects, right? Helping other game studios. I just wanted to hear some examples from you guys of the projects you worked on and the real ways that you helped other studios do the concept testing.
Yes. I think my colleagues here will be able to share because we have been working with multiple big, small, all type of sizes clients, and they have come with very weird concepts and ideas, and we have tried to help them. So I will leave my colleagues to be more to share the examples.
I remember projects that we had in the past that we did concept testing. As soon as the client had a PowerPoint with an idea, a simple sentence of the idea of what the game was going to be, the story, the background story, or even the characters, we did a focus group with players that were the target audience of the idea, and we shared the PowerPoint with them. We asked questions. We had a discussion about what they thought or what they interpret the game was going to be. We tested as well prototypes where it was the simplest mechanics were there, the simplest story. I was thinking as well that we do market research. So a client wants to build a game, has the power to build a game, and and we create surveys together as to to find out who the target audience would be or what type of game certain players from certain countries, for example, would like. I remember questions like, what type of world would you be interested this game to be in? And I don't know, country, fantasy, whatever. So yes, we covered a lot of concept testing on Antidote.
And Vicky, you shared example in the back.
I have. Yeah, I think I have just quite a few games that were on concept stage, or some weren't on concept stage, but they were trying to test new concepts for the game. For instance, I remember a game about, I don't know if I can, like I mentioned the sports, but it wasn't a sport, and they want to see if people were interested in adding new how to say, I don't, stadiums, like in like a type of stadiums, like new type of characters, new type of cars they could play with, that give the players more abilities when playing. So the game was already working, but they wanted to test new concept for the game just to expand it a little bit. In other situation, I remember that we were showing I don't know, I think 5 or 6 players in a focus group, some trailer videos of possible like future game, like all the story and all the things that they will need to do in order to, I don't know, advance in the game, like fight and then like find or mysteries or rescue a specific character. And after each video, they were start discussing about what they saw, what they think about that. there are a lot of ways you can do concept testing, and in a lot of stages we also recommend doing as in the earliest stage possible, but you can also do concept testing for new updates in a game, and that's interesting as well.
Yeah, it was nice to hear specific examples, like you mentioned, stadiums, like see in action, people actually trying to get the feedback. Do you have any specific examples, Alex, from your side?
I was thinking about one. I think we did this one together, where we had different groups, and each of us had to explain to one group the basics of a game, like this is the setting of the game, and this is what you will have to do. And then I don't know if Lucy, Vicky, you girls remember, we had to play with the players the game.
Ah.
And during that time playing, it was like, a very basic prototype of a game. The assets weren't finished. Some things were even not working all well because it was a very basic prototype. But it really was enough to see players engage and understand what the game was going to be about and what were their their expectations. And yeah, maybe they will add, I don't know, biomes, and maybe they will add like this new feature or a new character that will do this and that, depending. And it was really interesting to see players that engage with such a simple prototype.
Mm.
And I think that really helped. It brought very, very interesting insights to the developers.
Yes, I would like to add to that project that what we did was it was a moderated playtest where we showed the PowerPoint first with the story, the mechanics, and what that game is going to be about, all the necessary information that players needed because it was just a prototype. And then they were playing, and of course we were letting them play. We couldn't influence them in any way, but we were there to answer any questions they may have, or solve any problems, any bug that might appear. So that's what we did.
It was a really interesting playtest because each of us participated in at least 2 or 3 gameplay sessions, and we
That's
were
cool.
like discussing privately, oh, they are not doing this, like they didn't figure out they had to do this in order to advance in the game. And in another group of players, they just figure out in the first 5 minutes what they needed to do, and you were like, oh yeah, but look at this group what they did. So the same game could have different directions depending on who plays it. It actually depends on their profile and how much experience they have with that game, which things are pretty obvious to players and which things they have some trouble finding out or figuring out. But yeah, it was interesting to see the different result with the same game. I think it was really fun. It wasn't really a long time ago.
Yes.
It was also interesting. Oh, sorry.
No. So I just want to say that essentially, guys, you got paid to play games. If you summarize it, that sounds
That's really weird.
Yeah.
We usually only get to watch the gameplay recordings or to see the survey and to analyze the results. But yeah, for this test, we got to play with players, which is something we did not do very often. But that's why I remember it. It was kind of memorable. I think we had some good fun.
Would you do that more? Like play with players if you could?
Certainly.
Yeah, of course. I don't know. I will say I don't know how you feel useful is for the company to see me playing with players. I mean, I don't know if I am or not the target, but if they want me to play, I'm open to it.
That will it help you to create better reports, like if you kind of immersed into testing as well, or it doesn't really influence?
Yeah, of course. I don't know if we had to do a report for that one. I think no, but
with this question, I have always this double thought that it's for one side, you know better the game.
Mhm.
For other side, you have to try to be more objective as possible, having your own opinions of the games after having played. Because if you haven't played and you only watch what they say and watch them playing, you don't have so much knowledge of, okay, this is not working, or this is player's issue or game's issue. If you have already played, like maybe you see something that you don't like, but it's more aligned with the game, but you don't share these likes with the genre, for example.
We always
Yeah, like I just want to say something to Joan. I think that Joan really I wanted to ask him if he does that when he find out a racing game is have a racing game playtest, if he's going to be objective or not.
I mean, that's the reason why I think I've never done one of the racing games that I would like to play. I normally just say it to somewhere else, to all of the team.
Imagine your Mario game playtest. I think Juan doesn't need rewards for that. I just want to see it.
But still, we always have the game. We always test it before giving it to players, and we always have it while we do the report or while we
Mhm.
want to understand something. So we always have access to it.
That's lovely. Well, guys, I would ask you way more questions about this, but I think it's time to wrap it up. It's a lot of useful things you guys said that might be useful to other game devs developing games, you know. So thank you for that, as always. Like I say, it was great to see the whole team for once. I don't know why we never did it, but
Yay.
It's lovely to be here with you, and also thank you for hosting us professional.
As
always.
always. Yes.
of course.
Yeah,
And
I like the dynamics between we four, but I don't know if we will have time again to be the four of us in this call. I guess, yeah. I hope that.
yeah, depends on the time and the topic, I guess. But meanwhile, thank you everyone for joining, and for everyone for listening. I always forget this, but I know Costa will remember. Like and subscribe, and
Sorry.
and we'll see you next time.
Thank you to our sponsor, Antidote.
Yes.
Thank you, Antidote.
Bye bye.